with having a peaceful life. Because if you're, and I can say this from experience, if you have to be having fun all the time, there's a pretty good chance you're not happy. Because there's a big difference between happy and fun. Because a lot of times you have to be doing the fun things to keep your mind off the fact that you're not happy. So that's what Jesus is talking about. We have to do the things that he tells us to do, and we can be happy and peaceful in this life, knowing we're doing what's right. Because the last thing it says there, if anyone serves me, him my Father will honor. And there's nothing better than to having honor from God. You know, this life, you may have people that like you. But is it better to be liked or better to be respected? And that's what we need to think about. If you always do what's right, you may not be liked, but you'll always be respected. And that's what Jesus is talking about here. If you serve him, God will honor us. And that's what we need to live our lives for. Okay. Moving right on to the questions now. We'll run through these real quick before we move on. All right. Question 1, page 31. Where did Jesus take the apostles before he fed the 5,000? Okay. Why did he take them out there to a desert place?
So they'd be alone.
Do what?
So they would be alone.
Did that work out? No. Okay. All right. What did the 12 apostles tell Jesus to say to the multitude? Remember, the multitude came. They wanted to be healed, but Jesus wanted to teach them too. So what did the apostles tell them?
Send them others away back in their residential place. Send them away.
Go find something to eat. Go find you somewhere to stay. All right? That's what the apostles' cure for this was, the problem they had. All right? Now, what did Jesus do to the loaves and fish before giving them to the apostles to distribute?
Blessed them and broke them and told the disciples to pass them out.
Right. Should we be thankful for the things that we have, no matter how small it is?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we always need to look at. A lot of times we think we have to have the big things, the big exciting things to be thankful for. And remember that it was Elijah, you know, the earthquake, the fire, the wind, all that. But where was God? In that still, small voice. So that's what we need to look. All the little things, just like a drop of water in a bucket. A lot of drops will fill up your bucket. So look for all the little things. And that's where you find your joy and happiness. Okay? What did the people of Bethsaida ask Jesus to do to the blind man? He wanted him to be healed. Okay? Remember we talked about that. The blind man didn't just come on his own. He had to be brought. He had friends to help him. Okay, where did Jesus take the blind man?
Led him out of town.
Why?
Because that was their custom of doing things.
He,
We didn't want a crowd because everybody would have wanted that.
yeah. But had everybody already seen what he could do?
Sure.
So that's kind of one of those, everybody already knew it, so why? But I think it was right. He just wanted to get him out away from the crowd. Because remember what what did Jesus tell the man after he healed him? Yeah. Go home, keep it quiet. All right? So that's why he took him out. He just didn't want to make a big show of it. He wanted to do it, but it was a one-on-one thing. All right? Number 7, what's the name of the individual Philip brought to Jesus? Nathaniel. And that's, as a matter of fact, that's going to be talked about more in the next lesson coming up. We're going to cover the same things. Okay? Number 8, what did the individuals who approached Philip ask him? Who were the individuals? Greeks, okay? What did they ask?
They wanted to see Jesus.
Right. And remember we talked about that. Why? I don't know, protocol, courtesy. You know, they knew, maybe not even knew where Jesus was, but they knew that the men who did know where Jesus was, they asked him. Okay? Number 9, who did Philip tell about this request? He told Andrew. So it's always good if you got somebody else that you can talk to about things, you know, get this, should we do this? Should we not do this? Yeah, okay. Help me out here. You got friends you can lean on. So he went and told Andrew. Now, we're going to go to the discussion questions. And this is, you know, this will last as long as we want it to. Why do you think the feeding of the 5,000 was recorded in all 4 Gospels?
To mostly provide confirmation of Jesus' identity. Because there were some people, a lot of people there that Savior did not believe Jesus and his teaching.
But would it have been just good to record it in one?
The more information you have out, the more people will know about it.
I think it impressed on each of them to that degree that they felt the need to write it.
I think it's because of the magnitude of feeding that many people so little.
Well, and each one of them tells just a little different variation than the other. But it's written by 4 different people, so you know, each one's got a different variation of it.
And that's, you know, that's what I've been wanting us to do, and this is good, is look at this a little bit past, you know what I said when we first started, is go past what's obvious there in front of us. Why? And that's a good question. Why was it in all 4 the only one? You know, and all these answers were right. It's different things. Could have been what they were looking for. All right? Now, what can we learn from this miracle? And we touched on quite a bit of that while we were talking about it. But what look at yourself. What did you learn from it? All right? And instead of saying, what can we learn, what did I learn?
Sometimes you just have to use what you've got.
Do what?
Sometimes you just have to use what you've got. Not saying impossible, but you know, that just the fish and the loaves. That with Jesus, the whole situation changed. But that little boy's mama had been smart enough to pack in some lunch. You know, of course, Jesus could have turned the stones into bread. You know, he had that power. But you know, sometimes when we think that no, well, that's just not ever gonna work. We need to look for what is available. Go work from that and work our way up.
Mm-hmm.
How many people you think were told by that 5,000? They were eyewitnesses to this miracle. And I'm sure they went out and told everybody they could think of what Jesus did. So now you've got thousands that know, but 5,000 actually saw it.
It's actually more than 5,000. Remember when you threw in the women and children? So, you know, there's a lot that's there in this little thing. I mean, even, what if I had the 2 fish and the loaves? Would I want to share that with everybody? Or would I want to say, you should have brought your own? I prepared. That's the other thing. Look at it from whoever had this. They could have just held on to it and said, no, it's mine. You can't have it. But look at what it accomplished by not being selfish. Taking what you've got and let other people have some of it. It can spread, like you said, the example that it would be, the people would see it and what they would know to tell about what had happened with what we had. So no matter how small the thing that you've got, it can be used to great benefit. Question 2. This is another one. What did we learn about Jesus from his healing of the blind man?
Jesus used various methods
Think about yourself. When things happen, does it strengthen your faith? Does it weaken it? Do you look at it as that in that way? Did God have anything to do with this? When you pray about something even, I've said this before, do you pray about it and then actually look for the answer? Or you just, well, I prayed, but I'm not expecting anything. But Jesus says if you don't look for it, if you don't have faith, you're not going to get an answer. Well, you'll get an answer, but it won't be anything that you want. You'll get a flat out no, because you don't have that faith. So that's what another thing we can learn, is his friends, whether he had the faith or not, his friends did. And what does that say about the people we hang out with?
Make an influence of how our life goes.
Mm-hmm. They can be an example to us. They can be a help to us. We need to do, if it's right what they're telling us to do, we should do it. Okay? And that's the example. These men took the blind man and said, look, Jesus can heal you, but you got to go. All right?
Well, it's very possible that the guy that he wanted healed, or that they wanted healed, didn't have their level of faith. And with Jesus taking him off and doing it in the stages, he gradually saw that this is who they say he is. And all he has to do is touch me, and he could have healed me immediately. But he let me see the different phases he could go through.
Well, you know, there were people that Jesus wouldn't heal because they didn't have faith. They didn't believe who he was. And he would just leave town. I'm not going to mess with you. So, I mean, there is things that God has an angry side. And Jesus did too. He would get angry with people. So,
I think there's also a lesson in there about the fact that, like, Jesus took him aside so that he could still give him the blessing that he was coming for without it being for everybody in the town. Because he specifically told him not to go back and everything. So it was about still being able to bless the one who was seeking it without giving blessings to those who didn't, who want blessings, really, that were only seeking miracles for the sake of miracles and not for the true blessing that they were, you know what I mean? I don't know if I said that right.
but there's a lot of things we can learn about Jesus healing the blind man. Why he did it, how he did it, and the things that took place, the people around him, the ones that brought him. There's just a whole lot there that we can see. Okay, the last question there, how was Philip different from the majority of residents of Bethsaida?
He believed.
Yeah. He was a believer. He was searching for the Messiah, just like a lot of the people were. And remember, Bethsaida, Christ said, woe to you, because you didn't believe after all these miracles that I have done there. So it was a town that didn't really accept Christ for who he was. But Philip was one of those that did. So even though, once again, just because you're in a crowd of people that may not believe like you do does not mean you can't set an example. It does not mean that you can't stay true to your faith, to your beliefs. Because how many of the other people in Bethsaida do we read about other than the ones that followed Jesus? All right, all these years later. Okay, any other questions, comments about Bethsaida, and we're going to go on to Cana. Okay, page 33 then. And this was it actually starts, let's see, page 35. The text that's over there on page 35 is the one that leads up to where they are here. So it's kind of, sometimes I wonder why they go in the order they do with these, because we go one way and then back up and come to where we are. So it's kind of, all right, we'll do it your way. But we're talking about Jesus going to Cana, and this was the one miracle that everybody knows about. Okay? And the third day, after this, other things that had taken place, we'll talk about that later, and there was a wedding in Cana, and the mother of Jesus was there. Why is it specifically told that Jesus' mother was there?
Also, further on down in the reading, you'll find that she could have had possibility of the arrangement with the wedding.
You know, and this kind of struck me when I was actually, this first time it ever hit me when I was reading this, studying it, okay?
But she's always referred to as the mother of Jesus.
Yeah. But do you think she might have had something to do with the wedding preparations?
Yes.
Okay? Because when you stop,
Because the place where the wedding is held is not too far from Nazareth.
yeah. She probably was in with the people that were having the wedding. And, you know, because it says she was there, but Jesus and his disciples were invited. Okay? Yeah. So she may have been one of them that was helping with the wedding preparations and things, the serving and all that. Okay? But Jesus' disciples were invited to this wedding, and they ran out of wine. And did you read over on page 37 about how this was supposed to be in that, I guess the first paragraph starting there? It said to run out of wine at a wedding was a social faux pas that would be the subject of jests for years. You know, you know, they made fun of you if this happened. The host was responsible to provide his guests with adequate wine for 7 days. This thing was going to go on. How long do our weddings last now?
Too long.
But you stop and think about it. Okay, the wedding itself, 30, 45 minutes, 45, an hour is a long wedding, okay? Then afterwards you have the reception and you're done. This went on for a week,
This was their custom.
Yeah. So, this was, but I mean, you stop and think about it though. When they had to get together, how far did they have to come from? And they didn't hop in their car and drive that 20 miles in 20 minutes down this paved highway. It's, honey, we're going to a wedding. Come on, here we go. All right. So they had to walk, then they had to have somewhere to stay. They had to eat when they got there. So this is a big to-do. So, but they ran out of something to drink. Why is it that they used wine back then? We're going to touch on this just a little bit. Because it's always been a big thing about Jesus I guess you'd say having a big drunk party. Okay? That's what a lot of people look at this at. Okay? But why did they have wine, and what was considered as wine back then?
They had wine because it was safer to drink than water.
Much lower alcohol content than wine today.
Well, for Jesus' wine as well, too, it wasn't fermented. It was not fermented.
Well, now grape juice will ferment itself, though.
I'm sorry?
I said grape juice will ferment itself, and that's why I want to talk about this.
Yeah, but it wasn't fermented.
But it takes weeks for it to do it, and it depends on how much sugar is in it. And even if it sets, if you let grape juice set and ferment by itself, the most you're going to get, I think, was about 5% alcohol content, which is not even enough to notice. But that's what they had to drink back then. You couldn't go to your soda fountain and get you a Coke, all right? Water was kind of iffy back in that area, but they had a lot of grapes, and that's why they grew the grapes, was to have the juice off the grapes. And that was what they considered as their, well, what it still is considered, as their wine. But remember what we just talked about. This wedding went on for about 7 days. If people had been drinking wine for 7 days, it was like we talk about, could you imagine what kind of shape these people would be in? So now, is this something that we're going to say Jesus promotes when he says drunkenness is not tolerated? Drunkards will not enter into heaven. Don't be drunk with wine. How do we say these two things together?
If you didn't make wine, that would make them drunk.
It's safe to say this was just plain old grape juice. Okay?
But it was the best grape juice.
Do what?
I said, but it was the best grape juice.
But we're not going to be able to take this and say that Jesus promotes social drinking, because that's not what he's doing. If it was, like I said, after a week of social drinking, most of these people wouldn't be on their feet. All right? So we can't use this story right here to say it's okay to drink, because Jesus was simply saying they ran out of, well, his mother actually. And that's the thing. His mother, that's why I said it's kind of made me wonder if she was involved in the preparation for this wedding. His mother came to him and said, they're out of wine. Why would she know that they ran out unless she was involved in the serving of it? So, I mean, this is just me thinking here. I ain't going to say sure, but that's a good chance. Now, in verse 4, Jesus said to her, he just got plumb rude with his own mother here, didn't he? Well, look, woman, what does your concern have to do with me?
Woman and those that met respect.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Anyway, so, but he says it, if you read that like that, it's almost the way it sounds, as he's being disrespectful, What does this have to do with me? Y'all ran out of wine. Why are you coming to me? All right? My hour's not yet come. So he's saying, is this what I'm here for? Is just to provide things like this?
This is still Jews we're talking about here. This is not Christians. And wine was a part of their lifestyle. I mean, Noah was drunk.
Yeah.
So just because he made wine doesn't condone it. He didn't wipe sin off the earth. But he did make commandments about drunkenness and so on that apply mostly for the Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Later. We don't want to read too much into this about it was an alcoholic wine and that kind of stuff. I think we don't have enough evidence to support that. He doesn't propose getting drunk, that's for sure. But wine was a custom that the Jews used, and drunkenness was a fact, because even at Pentecost, what were the apostles there accused of?
Yeah, they were accused of
Drunk on wine. So the
Well, I
wine
mean-
probably had alcohol in it.
Yeah, they could ferment the stuff because, they did make it to where it was alcoholic. They had the ability to do that. I agree with that. But as far as just natural fermentation, I don't think Jesus would be promoting a drunk party, is what I'm saying there. But they did have the ability to have, just like we've got now. They did it, all right? But Jesus is saying, but now this next line here, mothers, you got to love them, okay? His mother said to the servants, whatever he says to you, do it. He just told her, woman, this ain't got nothing to do with me. And she turns right around and just more or less says, you're going to do it anyway. And I told the girls about this. I remember back when and y'all probably got stories like this too. I was cutting tobacco. I'd been, back in the days when I did that. And I'd come home. I actually had a job. And I came home from work one day, and I sat down, and I had my glass of milk, my candy bar, and I was going to just kick back for a minute, And Mom says, you need to hurry up and get that done because you got to go to such and such place to cut tobacco this afternoon. Well, old Marty says, I didn't tell him I was fixing to be down there and cut tobacco. Mom said, no, but I did, and I get your stuff and go. So, you know what I did? I got my stuff and went. So that's kind of what I see here. Jesus told her, he said, I'm not here to do this. And she's like, today you are, okay? We need your help, and you're going to do this because we know you can. And that just kind of tickled me that she just kind of overrode him there. So Jesus had, like you said, respect for his mother. He could have said, I just told you no. But he didn't. He did what she asked him to do. Okay? So now, verse 6 there were 6 water pots, according to the purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. That's a pretty good sized pot. So how many gallons would that be? Let's say there was, you're talking 25, round it off, 25 gallons. Split the difference. How many? Yeah. That's a lot of water. 100, 150 gallons? Okay? So now you can just imagine how many people were here at this wedding thing. There's probably a pretty good group there. Okay? And Jesus told them, fill the water pots. Could Jesus have done this without telling them to do anything? What does it come back to again?
We have to do what we can.
We have to do what we can do. Jesus asks us to do things. We ask Jesus to do things for us. That's what prayer is all about. Thank him for things. Ask him to do things. Ask him to help us. But at the same time, it's required of us to do what we can do. And he'll pick up what's left to get us where we need to be. We got to have the faith of knowing that if we go ahead and start, that he'll get us there. It's like any journey. It begins with that first step. And if you're not willing to take that first step, why should anybody expect you to make it to the end of the journey? So, that's what he's doing here. He tells them again, go fill the water pots with water. And they filled them to the brim. This is a question I want to ask you. Could he not have said, we'll just take what we've got there? Why did he have them to fill them up?
Have the blessing be as great as possible.
No confusion that there was anything other than water.
Do what?
No confusion that there was anything other than water in there. Water's running out the top. Had to be water.
If they weren't full, how could you verify that he had changed anything? Well, that was already had. It already had stuff in it. He didn't do anything. That was already had, so much in it. But when people see that it is full of water, then what comes next, there's no way that you can hide it. You can't say somebody put something in there. It was already half full. They just took what was already there. They got a pot from somewhere else that had some in it. So they fill these up, and Jesus said to them, draw some out, take it to the master of the feast. So there was somebody that was overseeing all this. Supposed to be taking care of all this. And Jesus told him, say, take this to him. And so the master now, he tasted the water that was made into wine and did not know where it came from. Now, if somebody comes up and hands you something and says, here, drink this, what's the first thing you're going to say?
What's in it?
Yeah, what is it? So this fellow, I guess he must have known what it was going to be. You know, he brought him a glass, says, here, drink this. The servants who had drawn the water knew where it came from. So we got witnesses of what Jesus had done. They knew, they went and filled up the water pots. They were there when Jesus changed it. And he just told them, did he even tell them what he did? I don't know, doesn't matter. But they filled it up, or they took a cup, took it to the master, and told him, you know, take a drink of this. Well, the master of the feast called the bridegroom. So we're in trouble now. Okay? And what did he say to him?
He says that most people pull out the bad stuff at the end, but he's pulled out the best.
Okay. Every man at the beginning sets out the good stuff. They were supposed to put out the good stuff first. You know. And then after you've, been going at this 3 or 4 days, and then the stuff that's not so good, go ahead and let them have that, whatever's left over. The seconds, I guess we would call it, The stuff that's not as good. Because now the feast is winding down, so you're trying to get rid of whatever you've got left over. So, you bring out the good stuff first, then you bring out the lower quality as it gets towards the end. But he said, you kept the good wine until now. So he kind of broke tradition there, didn't he? Did we get any kind of lesson out of that?
You know, when they say that kept the good wine until now, they probably already had wine. Jesus' wine was better. You know,
Yeah.
Jesus could have made a lower quality wine. I mean, he could have made it at any quality. So I think it shows us that you always put out your best stuff regardless. Like, we're always supposed to put forth our best work when we're serving God or when we're serving each other or whatever, aside of that.
but you know, Jesus did this miracle. He never touched anything. He doesn't really say like he touched anything. He told people to do certain things. He didn't touch nothing.
Right.
And I would just about imagine that the guy that drawed the cup, if he thought it was wine when he drawed it, he would have seen the difference. You know, he drew water, is the way it makes it sound. Almost didn't go to wine until the master of the feast tasted it
Yeah.
at that time. And the whole entire time, Jesus was hands off.
So what does that tell us?
Oh, he's got power we don't even know about.
Right.
And
Th-
but it's also, Jesus' miracles always had a purpose. Always had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And through his manifestation of his glory.
So, going on that, Jesus doesn't necessarily have to get involved in it directly. Like you said, hands-on, okay? He can do things, and then we take it and run with it. It's always comes back to us having to do something, okay? Jesus wanted the pots filled. The people filled it. He changed it. Then they drew it out, took it to somebody else, said, this is it. Well, this is what we got. So Jesus was involved in it. But a lot of times we don't see that. I guess would be the best way to put it.
Well, it goes back to, verse 5, when his mother says to the servants, whatever he says, do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And go all the way back to the Old Testament. Walls of Jericho, walk around it 7 times. I mean, pretty sure on the 5th time they were like, 2 more times and we're done with this. I hope, yeah. So
So they kept the good wine, or they accused the fellow of keeping the good wine until the end. And it comes back to Jesus does provide the better stuff. Okay? He can take what we've got and make it better. He can use what we have to do things with. He can even change our circumstances sometimes for the better. Whatever we're in, he can change that. And that's a lot of good lessons in this where he did this. But it comes at the last verse there, verse 11. This beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. And that comes back to why was Jesus even doing miracles to begin with?
So people would believe.
He's got to prove who he is. Right? He's going to do things later on other people can't do.
It makes you wonder a little bit what he did when he was like an adolescent, right? That Mary saw. Because Mary knew about his powers, but this is kind of that first step for the world to see those powers, you know? And she's coming up to him like, take care of this.
Yeah.
So like, what did he do whenever he was a kid? She's like, "Dadgummit, quit turning that cat into a dog," you know?
Well, she probably did. I mean, she raised him. All right? So she knew how Jesus came into the world. She knew how Jesus grew up. I mean, remember when he was 12, they found him in the temple. And that's really about the only thing we know. From the time he was born, the time he was 12 till now, is he grew in favor with God and man. So apparently he was an impressive young man. Do we notice kids that are well behaved? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was
Well, it's not just that though, but I know of two different cases of where we, in this book, where things happened, just like in the manger when he was given the gifts. She noticed this and she kept it in her heart. There was another case of
Mhm.
when, I don't know when it was, but when she was with Elizabeth, maybe, and something was said then and she kept it in her heart. So these things that kept happening, and she kept keeping it in.
and she pondered on them, remember?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she knew who Jesus was. And that's probably another reason why, when it came to this right here, she knew what he could do. And that's why she just kind of like, well, you're going to do it anyway. I know who you are. I know what you're capable of. And we need to do that with our kids. If we know they can do things, push them to do it. Okay? If they're capable and know they're capable, help them accomplish that.
In World War II, I think last week I mentioned World War I. So this week I wanted to mention World War II. See, yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing. That's clever. You see that? Crowd work. Anyways, in World War II, since I mentioned World War I last week, I figured I'd bring up a fun fact from World War II. I believe in Okinawa, but I could be wrong on the battle, but it was World War II. There was a medic. His name was Desmond Dawson. Now, you may have heard of that story from the movie. Now, if you've watched the movie, don't spoil it because it's a good story. This medic, he was a Christian. I don't know what church he went to, but he wanted to join the military to help, but he didn't want to fire a weapon. He said, I could not fire a weapon. Didn't, yeah. You may know the movie and you may know the story, but let me I'm going to try my best. And so they go to they go to this battle, and they're not doing well at all. And then eventually they end up winning the battle and overtaking the hill. But the Japanese were very good soldiers, and they would fight until their last breath. And on their last breath, they would take you with them, because Japan in the 1940s had kamikaze soldiers and kamikaze pilots. That's what we saw in Pearl Harbor. That's what you see a lot of in the wars in the trenches. They would kind of blow themselves up. So they had a lot of that. But there was a man named Desmond Doss who was a medic in World War II. He would not fire a weapon, and if you watch the movie, he had this phrase, "Let me get one more." And me and my buddies have a joke where we say that when we're doing something silly. Let me get one more. It's like when we go order food, we'll say that, like talking about burgers or tacos. Let me get one more. And it's just a silly. But he would say that, and ultimately he never fired a weapon, but he saved 75 lives. And he was awarded so many medals, and he was honored, and they made a movie about him. Andrew Garfield starred in it. But it was just this wonderful person that did so much good. And that's all he wanted to do, was save one more person. Luke chapter 15, verse 10 says, "Likewise I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." Not much different, is it? I wonder how many times we think to ourselves, let me get one more. Just let me get one. We sometimes make evangelism about this big thing where we see all these people go to universities and go preach on the sidewalks and bring a megaphone into Walmart or McDonald's and preach. And McKenna and I went to Martin this week or this past week, and there were a bunch of people lined up on the road with signs, inviting people to church and encouraging people to repent and encourage people to be washed in the blood. I mean, they had Bible verses. There was like 10 of them. A lot of times we think of evangelism like that, doing big, great things. There's nothing wrong with that. But evangelism is also one person. Talking to your neighbor, talking to your coworker, talking to your family member, talking to a person at the grocery store, at the gas station, or you fill in the blank. I was thinking about that movie, and then as I was reading through Luke, and I saw that verse, it really encouraged me that maybe it would be the best if we started looking at it as, how can I bring one soul to Christ? What can I do to bring one soul? And then after that, what can I do to bring one more? So I wanted to follow that up with asking, this afternoon, are we striving to save souls? Are we striving to grow the kingdom of God? And if we are, what are we doing about that? You fill in the blank for your life. What are you striving to do? And what steps are you taking to accomplish that goal? I'm so thankful that you're here. I enjoyed our teen class, and I'm sure the adult class and the kiddos classes went well. But I'm so thankful that you're here. If there's anything that you need, please come as we stand and sing.
He will create anew, make whole again. Your empty, wasted years He will restore, and your iniquities remember to see everyone here this evening. For those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, glad you've taken the opportunity to join us. We do encourage you to worship with us in person whenever possible. This will be a song for our closing prayer. Work, for the night is coming. Work through the morning hour. Work while the dew is sparkling. Work mid-spring is flown. Work when the day grows brighter. Work in the glowing sun. Work, for the night is coming when man's work is done. Work, for the night is coming under the sunset skies, while their bright tints are glowing. Work from daylight flies. Work till the last beam fades.